What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Chuggy from Sugar Earth Media, and today we're taking a look at the Season 1 finale of The Walking Dead Dead City. Now that the full season is out, we can finally give our full opinion on the season overall and what we think about it. So, as a season finale, what I was going in expecting was something thrilling, something exciting, something that's really going to make us happy as zombie fans, something that's going to excite us about the future of a Season 2 potentially. And what we get in this episode is an episode focused on the character drama. Now, when it comes to the Walking Dead universe, that is one of the strengths of the show. But I also want to see all those other things as well. And in this episode, we get some surprises. It didn't go exactly how I expected. If you take a look at my prediction video for this finale, I got most of it wrong, which I'm happy about. I'm happy to be wrong. I'm happy to be surprised. Couple pleasant surprises in here, but what I wasn't expecting was a slower paced episode, dialogue driven, not a lot of action. Now, on paper, that sounds pretty boring. I ended up being entertained by it because there's some really good acting in this, and the dialogue is definitely far above par as far as how The Walking Dead has been written lately. So Negan takes center stage in this episode. Maggie has kind of taken a back seat in this show. Negan's kind of led the charge, and she finally gets a little bit more substance to act with, and that's great. I think that the element works pretty well, but there's the old villain. It kind of is undermined by the previous episode and this one, and now there's a new villain, and that seems like the major plot thread that season 2 is going to deal with is this new villain here. And that character, not very intriguing to me. I like the Croat better. Honestly, I'm not that enthusiastic about a season 2 with this other character as a villain. There's a couple things I like about those scenes, but in general, not the biggest fan of that character. And there's a complete lack of action in this episode. It just kind of feels a little empty, even though I did overall enjoy the episode. So the season as a whole, it was not as action-packed as I was hoping. There's a lot of things that had promise early on with the setting, and it definitely helps that there's more cinematic flair to the show with the outdoor scenes and some of the effects, but you know, it kind of feels a little underwhelming when you look at the full thing in its full breadth. However, it's still the best Walking Dead spinoff so far. I think it's a lot more compelling than World Beyond, although World Beyond had a lot of big picture stories that were interesting. This one seems to be hinting at that stuff, but it's more about the characters. So there's good things in this episode, but overall, I don't know. I'm kind of lukewarm on it. I said at the beginning, the first episode, this is mid-tier Walking Dead, and I think that's how I'm leaving this season, mid-tier Walking Dead, but that is still the best Walking Dead we've gotten in a few years now. So it's still worth watching as a fan. If you're a fan of the show, definitely check it out. If you're a fan who kind of left off the show a few years ago and hasn't watched since, I don't know. I'm kind of mixed on whether I would recommend it to people like that. If you really like Negan, definitely. But there's no big Negan moment like the shocking part of an episode 2 with the knock-knock scene that was amazing. There's nothing like that where it was like, wow! There is no wow factor. There's a lot of little things, some little catharsis that really worked. But we're going to get into the breakdown now. Like I said, overall enjoyed it. This season, the pacing's a little weird, especially having this last episode be relatively uneventful. So there was, of course, the big conflict with Negan and Maggie where they're fighting, but that only lasted a few minutes, and it was kind of, I don't know. You saw it in the trailer, you saw it in the show. So, I don't know, overall lukewarm on it. There are some things I really like about this episode, though. In particular, there's a lot of symbolism that's kind of subtle, and we'll get into that as we get into the breakdown. But if you guys like these reviews, definitely hit the sub button and the like button. I'm going to be reviewing all of the upcoming Walking Dead spinoffs. We're going to be checking out trailers tomorrow at Comic-Con. They got the panel going on, even with the actor strike, which I was kind of surprised by, but they got trailers to show, so they're going to show that. And I will be reviewing those trailers tomorrow. So looking forward to that. Definitely leave your comments in the comment section down below, but with that, we're going to break into the breakdown. So this first scene is what I got wrong in my my prediction video. I kind of predicted, oh, Ginny's got this secret. She's going to reveal the secret. And she's a character who's been mute this whole season. You know that before the end of the season, she's going to say something. And I had assumed that the thing she was going to say is the secret that she was holding. The reason she came to New York, I kind of got some things wrong in my last review, where I was confused why she looked in the grain silo. But now that I've rewatched the first episode, I kind of remember Maggie did say to Negan that the Croats stole all the grain. However, what threw me off is that Ginny was supposedly not there in that part. She had walked off. Now, of course, she was eavesdropping or whatever, heard that information, but we didn't see her hear that. So it was a bit off-putting in that reveal last week. So that's what threw me off. I don't know about you guys. But now that I understand, that's the whole reason she went to New York. It kind of felt stupid for a child to take that risk, right? But she's going after Negan because of her relationship with him, how she feels like he saved her type of thing. So I love that motivation, and it gets spun on its head here in a way I wasn't expecting. See, I was expecting that secret was going to be withheld. I thought that, the flare got shot off, either the Barazi are going to get to her or zombies are going to prevent her from telling Negan. They came up with something better. And I love this first scene here, and Negan's acting is amazing in this. He's pissed that she's here because he went through all this trouble to give her a safe place to stay, and that's why he's here even. His whole reason to come to New York is so that she is safe. And we learn the backstory of why he is so invested in this girl's life. And I think it's really a really smart, good writing. And I like it because, a lot of what they've done to kind of try to redeem Negan, they always have him paired up with a young female who needs help. So, we had him with Lydia from The Whisperers. She was kind of an outcast in the group, and he was as well. He kind of bonded with her, and that was part of his redemption story, was his relationship with Lydia, as well as his relationship with, of course, Judith. So I thought that those two were kind of paralleled in this relationship, and I kind of thought, he's got another relationship with a young girl to kind of redeem him. It turns out completely the opposite, because he did, in fact, kill her father. Her father, that she is so traumatized by that she can't speak, was one of the 5 men who he killed in retaliation for beating up and stealing from his wife. So I think that this is a symbol. We thought it was a symbol of his redemption, but it's actually the opposite. It's actually the symbol of his old ways, of how he used to be and how he in fact still is. So she represents his guilt, what he has to atone for, and I think that that's really quite smart, and he uses that to his advantage in this scene to get her to go back to safety. So that's what prevents her from telling him the secret. He's mad that she hasn't talked for months and now she's talking. He's mad about it. He uses the truth that he's been hiding in a way to get her to go away. And I thought this scene was brilliant, man. I really did. I wasn't expecting this, and I thought it was really good. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. But she is one of the symbols of that. Still, it's kind of still a character. I said last week it's a character who's hard to relate to. Don't really care about her that much. But her role in the story here as a symbol of what Negan used to be, I think is pretty smart and powerful. So I like that. And you'll see my prediction video. I didn't mention what was going on with Pearly because I couldn't factor him into this episode. He just seems so extraneous. And now we know why, because he basically agrees to take Ginny back. So basically his plan last week was to use the docks as a boat, and that's what he does. And he brings her back to the bricks. So I thought that was really good. And here we got a scene with Maggie and Negan, and they're waiting for the Croat. Negan told a story in the first episode about how his father brought him the Statue of Liberty thing, and that was what New York meant to him. And now Maggie talks about what New York means to her using the symbol of Macy's. I think that these are smart things. Like I mentioned last week, Broadway, part of the mythology in New York, and the Statue of Liberty as well, and Macy's as well. So all these different things are definitely part of the mythology of New York. Like I said, the consumerism is kind of represented by Macy's. Consumerism, it represents the old world, which represents, a world of plenty where you're not necessarily scrounging for survival. I mean, of course, some people are, but not in the same way as after the world falls. So she tells a story about Santa Claus. It's not as interesting as Negan's story in the first episode, but I thought it was good writing. And I also liked how Negan's talking about, what he's basically telling her that the Croat was very happy to see her, and it seems like all's going to go in Maggie's way in this part of the episode. So, I like the image here. And then the Croat shows up. We get a couple cool shots of the city, but for the most part, it's just on sets and stuff, which is what I expected. Here we get a scene where they're walking through the city again, which, again, looks really cool. But in this part, it popped into my mind the first scene in New York that we saw in the first episode. We had all the zombies falling down from the sky, and that was kind of like in the trailers, one of the things they used to market it. It was like this really powerful symbol of how chaotic this world that they just entered is. And we never see it again. We never see any explanation for why there's so many zombies at the top of these buildings, and we never see any other zombies falling off of buildings. It just kind of popped into my head seeing this. You would think that if that was a common occurrence or there were a lot of zombies up there, that it would have happened more often. But it's not really a criticism, just something that popped into my head while we see this scene. So in the first episode, we were introduced to this smoking building. We saw it across the river, and that has been their goal this whole time, and that's where the end point of the show is. That makes sense. But now I think we know that, I guess it wasn't really confirmed 100%, but of course now that we know Maggie was supposed to bring Negan here, and that's the whole reason for her journey, that the smoking building was kind of just a place that they agreed to meet. So Maggie knew all along that this is where it goes. And, even Negan says, where there's smoke, there's fire. Kind of a symbol of what is about to happen between them. So it seems like things are going to go according to Maggie's plan. But then Negan asks what Maggie thinks the girl was going to say to her. So this is where it kind of kicks into Negan that she came all this way for a reason. He figures it out that the lie was about the grain, which in my last review I said, why did Maggie lie about the grain? I wasn't sure I understood that. Now I do understand it. It's because, if the Croat stole Herschel and didn't have something in mind to take, it would be like, well, why did he take him to begin with? What is the purpose for that? And of course the purpose is to get Negan. So she needed something else there. Now, she could have said something like guns or weapons that couldn't have been verified, but, she didn't know that Ginny was a factor, I suppose. So, I think that this is smart. They play it well. You see the wheels turn with Negan. He kind of realizes that she was lying, I'm not exactly... I wish it was a bit more kind of obvious or subtle, I suppose, but I do like how this worked out. Then they start fighting, and we got zombies in here to add some extra threats to the situation. Of course, we got the Barazzi in the area as well, and they end up coming at the end of it. This scene kind of felt like a little too quick to me. Like they could have gone deeper with it. And Maggie's like about to stab Negan, and it's like, don't you need him alive? It just felt like, what is her purpose here? She actually does stab him, and then like for the rest of the episode they act like it didn't happen. So I'm a little confused. They didn't even like bandage Negan or something. Maybe they did and I just didn't notice, but it was just like, I don't know, it just kind of felt a little anticlimactic in a way. So Negan figures it out. And one thing I forgot to mention is you saw in that early scene where Maggie tells a story about Macy's, there's a moment where she looks at him almost with guilt, like she's going to tell him the truth after all, and decides against it. But of course, the Barazi come at the right moment, and then Maggie picks up a knife, and it's just like, I feel like Negan should know to be in a bit more control of the situation, not to turn his back to the person who's trying to kill him, and just stabbed him. And then she picks up a knife, which I don't think the knife has any blood on it as well. That's one small thing. But yeah, so I don't know. A bit underwhelming of a scene. They kind of hyped that up so much. And, the big scene, the big shot we saw in the trailer. So not that exciting. And then here we got Pearlie dropping off Ginny at the bricks, and then she leaves a shirt in the back, and the shirt represents Negan because Negan gave her the shirt. She doesn't align with it anymore. She doesn't fuck with Negan. She basically betrayed him by not explaining the secret that she went there to tell him. So, she's kind of in a rock and a hard place. She doesn't have a lot of choice in her life, it feels like. So I'm intrigued by that character, but I would like to see more in depth, because it doesn't seem like she's gonna go anywhere. She's still gonna be there in season 2, so I would like to see more, and she only got a couple words in this episode. So here we go with the Croat, and now he's he's talking about how he came to the plan with Maggie, and basically he says he crossed paths with somebody named Jerome. And Jerome was from the Saviors. I'm guessing, I looked it up, and it doesn't seem like this character existed before, which it would have been cooler if it did. But I suppose, we would know who that character is if they were known previously. So yeah, he basically says, he heard the story of the widow. He found out about the marshal that he killed, and the other people. And the only missing link is what I've mentioned before, which is, why can't he find Negan on his own? What does he need Maggie for? Maggie doesn't seem to have any special knowledge about finding Negan. Yeah, I suppose she can convince him to go there, but he has people at his disposal. He has firepower. He could, of course, take Negan by force. So, that's something that doesn't really feel like it was addressed. But then we have the hostage handoff, and basically Maggie's like, it's supposed to be like a reversal of the revenge. She, I think, wants it to feel like a satisfactory victory, but it's not at all, because she's not in control. In the truck, the Croat mentioned that, he was going to go back on their deal if he was able to capture Negan in their previous encounter. So she's at the mercy of the Croat at this point in giving her son back. So, and this guy's been set up to be insane. You would think he wouldn't really care about his word, but maybe he's trying to impress Negan at the end of the day. So, yeah, I thought that it was pretty compelling to see the emotions in the performances and the subtleties there. But as far as like the story itself, it's just like, oh, they go to the vault, they exchange the prisoners, and then they leave. But the directing was good, the acting was good, and that's what carries this part. And we get to see Herschel doesn't really seem too happy to see Maggie. Of course, we know that there's some tension there already based on the flashback scene that we got. And even Negan like says hello, and he seems like Herschel doesn't hate Negan. And of course, we see more of that at the end of the episode. We learn about it. So, it's the whole point of Maggie coming here was to see Herschel. Herschel's not really excited to go. And he even seems like disappointed that she's handing over Negan. And we get that in the car scene. We'll break that down a little bit. So I thought that it was pretty good. And I like what they do with it after that. We'll get there. So here we get Pearlie, and I'm like, what is going on with Pearlie? Like, he's in this show for a purpose. We don't know what it is yet. Here is that scene. So Pearlie is lying and telling the story that he shot Negan and left him there. And this lady seems to be in charge. And it's hinted at by Dama, the other antagonist, that they have connections to a bigger group or something, whether that's CRM, it doesn't, probably not the Commonwealth, but because that's our main group at this point is the Commonwealth. So I don't think our main group are supposed to be antagonists. So it's got to be CRM, maybe, or a new group. Who knows? But she's connected to something bigger. And I like how she's, playing the politician in this part where she's like saying nice things on its face, but she's, the person that'll smile to your face and stab you in the back. So I think that that's smart. She's basically threatening him by asking him about his daughters and stuff. She doesn't buy the story. She knows that he is lying to a certain degree, but she won't admit it. She says, it would have been great to bring Negan in, and of course, I'm sure that's why Pearlie why he didn't kill Negan right away. Is that was his directive. So there's a symbol in this scene. I said there's a lot of symbols in this episode. The smoking, the cigar. There's a lot packed into the cigar symbol. So one thing in the first episode, if you guys remember, maybe you guys missed it, but Pearlie said he doesn't smoke, he doesn't drink, I'm a family man, and that was his appeal to Maggie to say, I'm a good guy, I live by a code, etc. So the reversal of that is this scene here, where his code is challenged. Basically his family is threatened. That's his number one thing of his MO. The thing he cares about most is his family. And then he's got those lesser things. I don't drink, I don't smoke. And I seem to remember he said drinking was illegal in this world, New Babylon. So he compromises this code. She offers him a smoke of the cigar. He said he doesn't smoke earlier. So he compromises the code based on a threat. So, it's an interesting symbol. And there's also, she talks about how it's a luxury item that takes a lot of resources to create. She talks about how the cigar paper needs to be kept at a certain temperature, and it takes a lot of corn, she talks about, for methane, so it's fuel. And she says, tell your story again, except talk about the methane. So she doesn't really care about Negan. She wants to know about the methane. And I'm curious how she knows about that. Maybe we'll learn more. But I like the symbol. I forgot to mention, when Pearlie enters New Babylon, he drives by the hanging that we saw in the first episode. We saw the hanging with the zombies hanging by ropes. And basically, in the first episode, we saw all the 3 zombies were intact. And now in this episode, we see one of the zombies lost its lower limbs. So that is the symbol. It was a symbol of order, law and order. And now that is falling apart, literally. So that is the bookends of New Babylon. So we were kind of introduced to this group through Pearlie. And now we realize he's just a cog in the machine, So I also like, in the next scene, he uses the codes. He said, as the marshal, I have the right by this code to execute people at my will. And basically, this scene implies, yes, you did have the right to do that. But what's more important is not what we have written down. So, the leader of the group is like, yes, you did have the right to do that, but the subtext is, that you shouldn't have done that. So, basically their own code is not the most important thing to them. The most important thing is the resources. It is the methane. So I think that, it's all just a front. It's all shallow. So I think that's really smart as well. So here we got, this actor here for Herschel in this scene with Maggie in the car, amazing performance from this young actor. I think he did really good. The material that he is given, it's a little bit, I suppose, predictable in the sense, it's just building on what was there before, that there's this antagonistic relationship, and he kind of breaks down that he felt like Maggie was preoccupied with her feud with Negan, and she never really saw him as a human. So that to me, it makes sense to me, especially given how much he was just like lugged around in season 11. She went off to this other group, and then they constantly taking him through these dangerous situations, and kind of not prioritizing him as much. if the priority should have been to keep him safe, and that is, what Maggie was doing was the opposite. So he says he felt more safe as a prisoner, which I think is really interesting as well. And we learn that he might have some more motivation for being here. So I thought that this scene was really well done, and Maggie is just heartbroken, and then we look across the parking lot, across the river, and we see Lady Liberty's back. We see her back. So that's another symbol in this episode. Again, it's another part of the mythology of New York. And also it's associated with Negan after the first episode and what he said about his father. I'm so glad I happened to click on this part and we get to see it on screen. But yeah, Negan is associated with this, his relationship with his father. His father gave him that. It's the promise of New York. And also it's about liberty, of course, American ideals, the old world, etc. But in this scene, I think it mostly means freedom in a literal sense, because this is the scene after Herschel is freed. So, but we're looking at her back, meaning the promise was ahead of us and now it's behind us, but it's not everything that we were hoping it could be. The promise of it falls apart. It's degrading, like the statue is itself. So I think that the promise of freedom, we're looking at its back. The hope it represents is kind of taken away. So it's a smart symbol, and I think there's a lot packed in there. You could kind of probably do your own long video just on what this means, seeing this shot here. So I like stuff like that. I'm a sucker for it. Video essays and whatnot. I like symbolism in the show. So that's my favorite part of the episode, are these subtle little symbols and the acting. So they did pretty good with that. And here we got a scene with the Croat, and we'll just run through it. It could have been better, but basically this scene was, just kind of reminiscing of times gone by. And the Croat's talking about how after he joined the Saviors, shortly after he joined the Saviors, they went to the River People, which I'm assuming is Oceanside, and they did their performance where Negan, of course, takes out the leader and gets everybody to submit, and Negan basically gave the bat to the Croat and gave him the opportunity. He didn't know what he was doing, but the Croat says Negan saw something in him that he didn't know he had. So that's just giving some backstory to their relationship, and I like the aspect of touching on the fact that leadership is about presentation and basically lying in a creative way, and that's a theme that's been throughout The Walking Dead, and I really like that they focus on that in this episode. They have the leader at the Broadway theater. I think there's some smart stuff there. The fact that Negan was a theatrical guy, that he used the Lucille bat, the Croat describes it as a microphone, as that important to the performance, that without that you can't hear him. So without the over the top action and without the symbol of his brutality at his will, that is what gives him his power. So I think that it's really smart writing, and I think that it perfectly encapsulates what Negan's character is about. So I really like this part of the episode, even if I was a little underwhelmed by the story of the Oceanside people and whatnot, especially because Oceanside, it just always felt like an afterthought to me. But here we go with Maggie and Herschel, and it's Maggie's best scene. Lauren Cohen, amazing actress, and I think she really she does a really great job in this scene. It's kind of the catharsis of her character. It's one of the more powerful scenes in the episode. She's talking about how ever since she was a kid, losing her mother and then the apocalypse, she always felt like she was losing stuff. And if she fought hard enough, she'd be able to take it. But the harder you fight to take it, the further it goes from you. So something along those lines. And I thought it was really a good scene, powerful scene. and the acting was on point. So next we get Negan and the Croat meeting up with the Dama, I believe is her name, the new villain. And, I kind of like the Croat, when he's getting excited. He's like, Negan, we are going to meet me mother. So, I like their interaction. But, after this episode, the Croat kind of feels non-consequential. And especially, he enters the room, he's introducing Negan, and then she's instantly like, get the fuck out of here. Like, just right away. It's just, I don't know. I could have done without that. I would have liked the Croat to feel a little bit more significant. He just feels pointless after this. I'm surprised they didn't kill him off in this episode. That's another thing I was wrong about in my prediction. I don't know why we need him at this point. So, here we are in the same set we were in last week, where we have the Dama and Negan, and they do some smart things in this scene here. And of course, it's always props. If you take a screenwriting class, you learn about props, and everything needs to be symbolized in a prop that characters can interact with. It's a visual medium. It's one of the important things, symbols, So Negan in this scene basically takes control. He realizes that, even though he's in enemy territory, they need him for something. He's the one with the leverage, and he uses that to his advantage, or so he thinks. That's reversed by the end of the scene. So, here's the woman, Dama, pouring brandy, and she's saying cheers for the performance. I like the Broadway element, and that she's acknowledging that he is a performer first and foremost, talking about the scene at the bank, and that she needs that ability. So she hands him that and says bravo, and he refuses. So that's him trying to take control. And by the end of the scene, he ends up taking the drink because control is taken away from him, he realizes. So and that's another symbol are the keys. She dangles the keys to the kingdom in front of him, and then she takes it away last second, and then she pulls out a box, kind of giving him the carrot, with the key dangling, like, you're going to be in charge of this, and you're going to be the guy that you used to be. And then she says, maybe you're not that guy anymore, and he agrees, and then he takes the key, and then he opens this box, and it is Herschel's toe. So Herschel is here playing an instrument of some kind. And I think it was a guitar. And then you see his toe is missing. And, it's interesting that despite the fact he was tortured, despite the fact that he lost a toe, he felt safer there. I don't know that it really makes sense. We're going to need to see more of that. But he's apparently bonded with Dama, Maybe he didn't like the Croat, but he liked the Dama. I don't know. But if somebody takes my fucking toe, I'm not going to be like, oh, I felt safe there. I was so great. That part doesn't make sense to me. But he drew this lady, and Maggie seems to know the significance of it. Well, just the fact that there's another woman, another mother figure in his life now. She feels threatened by that, and she knows that there's something up with that. The fact that he drew this woman, it's not somebody age appropriate, so it's not somebody he's in love with. It's somebody he looks up to. So, it's interesting. That's the only thing is, I guess we need to justify it next season. But then the reversal is, she's threatening Herschel. She's saying Herschel saw that Negan felt guilt, and Negan wasn't proud of the fact that he tore this family apart. So he wants Herschel to stay alive. He doesn't want Herschel to get hurt. She's saying we can go back and get more pieces of him, assuming that, I don't know, there's a lot of assumptions here, assuming that Maggie doesn't decide, these evil people know where we are, maybe we should leave. Maggie doesn't decide, we're going to, maybe our group will stay here, but we're going to leave. But, it's an interesting, of course, Negan does care. He cared enough to come here. But after he got stabbed by the woman he was trying to help, does he really care that much? I don't know. I guess he does. So that's the reversal, is he's going to do what she wants because Herschel is being threatened. So that's the end of the season. And like I said, overall, this episode is not. I wanted something exciting, something thrilling, something I was like, wow, that was amazing. I didn't really get that. We got more subtle scenes that I did enjoy, but overall, I suppose I'm underwhelmed by it, even though there's a lot of things that I liked in the episode, especially the acting and the dialogue was pretty good. I'm not a fan of this new villain, like I said, so I don't know. Maybe they can win me over next season. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the other spin-offs, but it wasn't the return to form exactly that I was expecting, but it is the best Walking Dead in years, other than probably the very last episodes of season 11 that I did enjoy. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I think I've about tapped out on this review. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, everybody. Peace out.